A nervous intern entered the wrong meeting room, unaware her millionaire CEO would fall for her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The sound of quiet conversation and the clinking of silverware filled the air of the Colonix Tower's executive floor. The glass walls reflected the skyline of New York City, bathed in the soft glow of a spring morning. Inside a sleek conference room, men and women in tailored suits waited around a long mahogany table, their voices low and practiced. It smelled faintly of espresso and confidence. Just outside that very room stood Ava Thompson, clutching a folder to her chest. Her palms were damp. Her reflection in the glass door showed a young woman in a second-hand blazer, her shoes a little scuffed, her smile rehearsed and trembling. It was her first day as an intern, and the sign on the door read, "Orientation, Marketing Team," or so she thought. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Come on, Ava, you have got this." Then she turned the handle. Inside, every head lifted. At the head of the table sat a man in a dark gray suit, sleeves rolled to the forearm, his eyes focused on a set of documents. He looked up when she entered. His expression shifted first confusion, then mild amusement. "Good morning," Ava said brightly, forcing a nervous laugh. "I am Ava Thompson, here for the intern orientation. Sorry if I am late." For a brief second, the man almost spoke, ready to tell her she was in the wrong place. But something about her trembling voice and the way she stood clutching her folder stopped him. His assistant had just texted that the board meeting was delayed 10 minutes. He closed the message quietly, curiosity flickering behind calm gray eyes. "Of course," he said with a polite smile. "Please have a seat." Relieved, Ava hurried to an empty chair, setting her folder down with a soft thud. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice still breathless. "I have been looking forward to this internship for weeks." The others around the table exchanged puzzled looks. The man at the head of the table leaned back slightly, watching her with quiet interest. His name was Ethan Cole, founder and chief executive officer of Colonix Group, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in New York. Few people dared to look him in the eye during meetings, yet this nervous girl had just walked in like she belonged. "So," Ethan said smoothly, folding his hands, "what do you hope to learn during your time here?" Ava blinked, surprised by the question but eager to answer. "Honestly, everything. I am passionate about branding, design, and how people connect through stories. I just want to help make something that feels real." Her words tumbled out fast, almost clumsy, yet sincere. Ethan watched her, his usual guarded composure softening. Around him, board members looked increasingly baffled, whispering to one another. "That is refreshing," Ethan replied. "Most people start by saying they want to climb the ladder." Ava smiled shyly. "Oh, I just want to climb out of student debt first." A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. Ethan's lips curved in a faint, genuine grin. There was a warmth in her honesty that cut through the sterile air of corporate formality. For a moment, he forgot she was not supposed to be there at all. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table. A message from her real supervisor flashed across the screen. "Ava, the marketing orientation is starting in room 12 on the 23rd floor. Where are you?" Her heart sank. She looked up, eyes wide with horror. "Wait, this is not the marketing orientation?" Ethan shook his head slowly, a hint of laughter in his voice. "No. This is the board meeting." "Oh my God," Ava whispered, springing to her feet. Her cheeks burned crimson. "I am so sorry. I thought I mean the sign outside." "It is fine," Ethan interrupted gently, still smiling. "No harm done." But Ava was already backing toward the door, mortified. "I cannot believe this," she muttered under her breath. "First day and I have already embarrassed myself." The door closed behind her with a soft click. For a long moment, silence hung in the room. Then one of the directors cleared his throat. "Who was that?" he asked. Ethan's gaze lingered on the door where she had stood moments ago. "Apparently," he said quietly, "someone who reminded me What honesty looks like. Outside in the elevator, Ava pressed her folder against her chest and groaned. The city below sparkled through the glass shaft as the elevator descended. She whispered, "Maybe no one will remember me after this." But she was wrong. Someone already did. The city was already dark by the time Ava stepped off the subway. The fluorescent lights flickered above the narrow platform, casting long shadows that stretched across the cracked tiles. She pulled her thin coat tighter around her and walked the 6 blocks home. Her shoes squeaked softly with every step on the damp pavement. Her apartment was on the 5th floor of an aging brownstone in Queens. The hallway smelled faintly of old paint and instant noodles. When she pushed the door open, the room greeted her with silence. There was only the hum of the small refrigerator and the soft ticking of the wall clock. Her roommate had left for the night shift again. Ava dropped her worn backpack on the couch and stood for a moment, staring at the stack of envelopes on the counter. Most were bills. One was a hospital statement for her mother's heart medication. She opened it, scanning the lines slowly. Her throat tightened. It was more than she had expected. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and her paycheck from the campus coffee shop barely covered groceries. The internship at Colonix did not pay until the 2nd month. Still, it was her only chance to build something real. She filled the kettle and waited as it rattled to life. The tiny kitchen was her entire world, 2 steps from sink to stove, 1 from stove to the table. Steam fogged the window as she poured hot water into a chipped mug. Beside it lay a sketchbook bound in cracked leather. She opened it, flipping past pages filled with colored pencil drawings, logos, campaign ideas, product mock-ups. Every sketch had notes scrawled along the margins. Design that feels like a heartbeat. Stories that matter. She smiled faintly. That book was her secret dream, the one she had never shared with anyone at the office. At Colonix, everyone spoke in metrics and performance charts. No one asked what moved people, what made them believe. But Ava believed that even a cup of coffee or a billboard could carry warmth if it was made with honesty. Her phone buzzed with a new message from her mother. "Sweetheart, did you eat? The doctor says I am doing better. Do not worry about the bills." Ava stared at the screen, her chest aching with guilt. She typed back, "I love you, Mom. Rest early," then turned the phone face down. The guilt of lying pretending she was fine pressed heavy against her ribs. She looked at the clock. 11:30. Tomorrow would be her 2nd day at Colonix. The memory of her humiliating mistake in the boardroom still replayed in her mind like a bad movie. The way everyone stared, the way she had bolted for the door, the heat flooding her cheeks. She had promised herself it would not define her. Ava pulled out her laptop and opened a blank presentation slide. The blue glow filled the dark room as she began typing ideas for the upcoming marketing brief she had overheard in the hallway that morning. She was not even part of the project, but she wanted to be ready just in case someone asked for input. That was how she had always survived, by being prepared for a door that might open only once. Outside, the wind rattled the windowpane. She wrapped herself in a blanket and whispered, "Do not mess this up again." Her eyelids grew heavy, the hum of the city fading into a distant lullaby. Hours later, her alarm rang. The sky was still gray when she stepped into the chilly air, clutching a travel mug filled with instant coffee. The subway roared beneath the city like a restless animal. Ava stood among dozens of commuters, men and women in pressed suits, eyes fixed on their phones. She glanced down at her reflection in the train window, hair tied neatly, blazer pressed, smile practiced. She whispered to herself, "Day 2. You can do this." By 8 o'clock she was back in the marble lobby of Colnix Tower. The receptionist smiled politely, scanning her badge. As Ava rode the elevator up, she caught her reflection once more in the mirrored walls. Something about it felt steadier, less uncertain than yesterday. She stepped into the marketing department's open workspace, greeted by the soft hum of printers and keyboards. A few interns whispered about last night's board meeting. Something big was coming, a new product, a rebrand. Ava quietly took her seat, pulling out her sketchbook. Her fingers brushed against the page where she had drawn a concept titled Human Touch. She did not know that somewhere 20 floors above, Ethan Cole, the man she had accidentally met, was glancing at the same file she had left behind in the boardroom, the one labeled with her name. He remembered her nervous smile, her honesty, and the way she said, "I just want to make something that feels real." And for reasons he could not yet explain, those words refused to leave his mind. The following morning unfolded like any other at Kolnick's tower. The elevators chimed every few seconds, releasing streams of employees with coffee cups and purpose in their steps. Ava sat at her small intern desk, adjusting the display on her monitor. Her hair was neatly tied back, her notes stacked with care. But her mind still swirled with thoughts of the previous day. She could not shake the memory of walking into the wrong meeting, of facing the chief executive officer himself. Every time she remembered the startled faces of the board members, her stomach twisted. Still, she reminded herself that she had survived worse. "Good morning, Ava," said a voice behind her. She turned quickly. It was Claire, the senior assistant from the executive floor. She was elegant, calm, and always seemed to glide rather than walk. Ava scrambled to her feet. "Good morning, Miss Bennett," she said softly. "Mr. Cole would like to see you," Claire said, handing her a small note. Ava blinked. "I am sorry, Mr. Cole?" "The chief executive officer?" Claire nodded, her tone polite but unreadable. "His office, top floor. Now, please." As Claire walked away, Ava's pulse raced. Why would the chief executive officer want to see her? Did he remember her embarrassing mistake? Was she about to be fired before her internship even began? She gathered her sketchbook and followed the quiet corridor toward the private elevator. The glass doors reflected her anxious face. By the time she reached the 52nd floor, her palms were slick with sweat. Ethan Cole's office was a vast space of steel and glass overlooking the Hudson River. Morning light streamed across the floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the room in gold. Behind a sleek desk, Ethan stood with his jacket draped over a chair, sleeves rolled up just like that first day. When Ava entered, he looked up and smiled. "Miss Thompson, right? You made quite an impression yesterday." Ava froze near the door. "I am so sorry about that. I truly thought it was the intern orientation." He chuckled, his tone gentle. "No apology needed. I was the one who let you sit through the first 10 minutes. You seemed so determined I did not want to interrupt." Ava's face flushed. "I was terrified, honestly. I thought I ruined everything." "On the contrary," he said, motioning toward the seat across from him. "You reminded me that sometimes sincerity is more memorable than confidence." She hesitated, then sat down. Her sketchbook slipped from her hand and fell open on the desk. Ethan glanced at it and paused. On the page was a colorful concept board labeled Human Touch Campaign, the same phrase she had written in her notes the night before. He tapped the page lightly. "Is this your work?" "Yes, just an idea," Ava said quickly. "I like thinking about how design can connect people, even if they never meet." "That is exactly the challenge we face with our new project," Ethan said. "We are preparing to relaunch our brand campaign. I was hoping to get some fresh perspectives." Ava's eyes widened. "From me?" "Why not?" he said with a half-smile. "You are observant, and you are not afraid to speak honestly. That is a rare combination." He walked around the desk and stood by the window. "I have spent years surrounded by people who only tell me what I want to hear. Yesterday, you told the truth, even if it was unintentional." Ava blinked, unsure how to respond. Ethan turned back toward her. "I want you to assist the marketing team on the rebranding proposal. You will report directly to me for the next few weeks." Her heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Cole, are you sure?" "I am only an intern." "That is exactly why I am sure," he said calmly. "You see things differently." For a moment, the room went silent, except for the hum of the air conditioner and the faint sound of traffic far below. Ava could hardly breathe. It felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's life. "Thank you, Mr. Cole," she managed to say. "I will do my best." "Oh, I know you will," he replied, his expression unreadable yet kind. "Claire will give you access to the files. We will meet again tomorrow morning." As she stood to leave, Ethan noticed a small note tucked into her sketchbook. It was written in blue ink. "Create something that makes people feel seen." He smiled quietly to himself as she walked out. When the door closed, Ethan leaned back in his chair. There was something about that young woman, something genuine that cut through the polished walls of his world. For years, he had built a reputation for being untouchable, efficient, and perfectly composed. But Ava's awkward honesty had slipped past his armor. Downstairs, Ava stepped out of the elevator and clutched her sketchbook to her chest, her heart still racing. She could not believe it. She had just been personally assigned by the chief executive officer. As she walked through the lobby, sunlight poured through the tall glass windows, turning the marble floor into a field of gold. For the first time in a long while, she felt something new stirring inside her hope. She did not know that Ethan was still watching from the top floor, his gaze following the elevator lights descending, wondering why one brief encounter with a nervous intern had shaken his world more than any business deal ever could. The following days at Cullenix Tower moved in a blur of meetings, sketches, and endless cups of coffee. Ava worked quietly at her new desk, tucked near the corner of the design floor, where sunlight filtered through the wide windows. Every morning she arrived early, and every night she left long after most of the team had gone home. She was determined to prove herself. Her sketches filled pages, color palettes, taglines, logo studies, all centered around the theme she believed in most: connection. Yet, no matter how hard she tried to focus, her thoughts often drifted to the man who had given her this chance. Ethan Cole was unlike anyone she had ever met. Despite his title, he was unassuming in person, calm, thoughtful, sometimes even quietly funny. During their daily meetings, he asked for her opinions as if they mattered. And when she spoke, he listened without interrupting. It was disarming. One late afternoon, Ava carried a pile of design mock-ups to the top floor. Claire greeted her with the usual composed smile and motioned toward Ethan's office. "He has been waiting for you." Ava hesitated, then pushed the glass door open. Ethan stood by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled again, staring at the city that stretched far beyond the river. The sun dipped low, painting the skyline in orange and gold. "You are still here," Ava said softly. "I could say the same about you," he replied, glancing over his shoulder. "I thought interns were supposed to leave at 5. "I wanted to finish the new layout," she said, setting the mock-ups on his desk. "I changed the tagline to something simpler." "Huh?" He walked over, scanning her work. "Human touch," he read aloud. "It feels honest. People will remember that." Her lips curved into a nervous smile. "Do you really think so?" He nodded. "You have an instinct for what people feel. That is hard to teach." There was a quiet moment where neither spoke. The hum of the city below filled the silence. Ava's heart pounded in her chest. Ethan leaned slightly on the desk, eyes on the sketches. "You remind me of why I started this company," he said finally. "Before the investors, before the headlines, I just wanted to build something that mattered." Ava's gaze softened. "And you did." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Maybe, but somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling it." The words hung between them, fragile and unspoken. For a second, the room felt too small, too quiet. Ava reached into her bag and pulled out her sketchbook. "Then maybe this will help you remember," she said. She flipped to a page showing a minimalist campaign design, 2 hands almost touching across a glowing screen. Underneath it, she had written, "Technology that feels human." Ethan smiled, a rare, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "You just saved our campaign." She laughed softly. "I thought I was just doodling." "That is what makes it brilliant," he said. "You draw what others overlook." The clock ticked past 7. The office lights dimmed automatically. Outside, the river shimmered beneath the setting sunday. "I should go," Ava said, gathering her things. Ethan hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Ava, for what it is worth, I am glad you walked into the wrong room that day." She looked at him, startled, then smiled shyly. "Me too." As she stepped into the elevator, she caught her reflection in the mirrored wall. Her face was tired, but her eyes shone with something bright belief. Far above, Ethan remained by the window long after she left, staring at the fading light. For the first time in years, he felt it again, the spark he thought he had lost. Weeks passed, and Ava's quiet corner of the design floor slowly became a place of constant energy. Her concept, human touch, had been approved for development, and for the first time, she felt her ideas carried weight. She no longer blended into the background of interns. People stopped by her desk to ask questions, to seek her opinion. Every few days, Ethan would visit the department without warning. He never announced himself. He simply appeared beside her workspace, asking, "How is the project coming along?" His calm voice always startled her, but there was a warmth in his eyes that steadied her nerves. One Friday morning, the entire building buzzed with preparation for the upcoming gala. It was the annual Vision Summit, an event that celebrated Kolnick's partners, investors, and employees. The new campaign would be unveiled there. For Ava, it was both thrilling and terrifying. Claire stopped by Ava's desk with a clipboard. Mr. Cole asked if you could assist the production team tonight at the event space. He wants you to check the visual setup. Ava nearly dropped her pen. He wants me to? Yes, Claire said with a faint smile. You created the concept. You should see how it looks in real life. That evening, Ava arrived at the ballroom hours before the event. Technicians tested lighting and screens. Waiters adjusted silver trays. The massive digital backdrop displayed a soft animation of hands reaching across a glowing screen, the logo of human touch. Seeing it projected 20 feet high made her heart race. She stood in the middle of the empty hall, whispering to herself, "You actually did it." Looks even better than your sketch," a familiar voice said behind her. She turned. Ethan was there, wearing a classic black suit. No tie, sleeves slightly rolled as always. "You should be proud," he said. "This message, human touch, it is everything this company has lost over the years." "I just drew what I felt," she said quietly. "You believed in it." Ethan's expression softened. "I believed in you." Her breath caught. The world seemed to shrink to the space between them. But before she could respond, the event coordinator rushed over. "Mr. Cole, the press is here early. They are setting up for the announcement." Ethan nodded, then turned back to Ava. "Stay close tonight. I want you to see the presentation from the front row." As the evening unfolded, the ballroom transformed. Guests in formal suits filled the space, lights dimmed, and music swelled. Ava found her seat near the stage, heart pounding. When the announcer took the microphone, her hands trembled in her lap. "Please welcome our keynote speaker, the man behind Kolnick's vision, Mr. Ethan Cole." Applause erupted. Ethan walked onto the stage, confident and poised. Cameras flashed. His voice carried through the speakers, steady and sure. "For years, technology has driven us apart more than it has brought us together," he said. "Tonight, we introduce a campaign that reminds us what connection truly means." "Oh?" The screens behind him lit up with the logo she had drawn. Human Touch. Her name appeared briefly at the bottom. Concept by Ava Thompson. Gasps spread through the crowd. She froze, stunned, barely believing what she saw. Ethan looked toward her table, his gaze meeting hers across the lights. This idea began with a single sketch, one reminder that even in a digital world, what makes us human is our ability to care. Applause thundered again. Ava's throat tightened as pride and disbelief tangled in her chest. She could feel tears prick at her eyes. But in the corner of the ballroom, a man in a gray suit whispered to another guest. His eyes followed Ethan's lingering gaze toward Ava. The faintest smirk touched his lips. "Interesting," he murmured. "So that is the intern everyone has been talking about." Ava did not notice. In that shining moment, under the lights and applause, she thought she had finally made it. She did not know that the reveal of success was also the beginning of something darker waiting behind the curtain. The applause from the gala still echoed in Ava's mind long after the lights dimmed. It had felt like a dream, a standing ovation, her name projected across the screens, Ethan's proud smile meeting hers. For one brief night, she believed she belonged. But dreams, she would soon learn, can shatter as quickly as they appear. The following morning, the office buzzed with gossip. Ava sensed it the moment she stepped through the glass doors. Conversations hushed as she walked past. A few people glanced up from their phones, pretending to be busy. She tried to ignore it, setting her sketchbook on her desk and opening her email. The subject line on the top message made her heart stop. Internal memo. Ethan Cole and intern rumors. She clicked it open. An anonymous message accused her of using personal connections to gain favor with the chief executive officer. It claimed she had strategically attached herself to Ethan to climb the company ranks. The words blurred on the screen. Her chest tightened. She could barely breathe. Across the office, Claire appeared, her expression serious. "Mr. Cole would like to see you in his office," she said quietly. The elevator ride felt endless. When Ava entered Ethan's office, he stood near the window, his posture tense. The morning light cut sharp lines across his face. "Ava," he said, turning to face her, "I need you to know something before you hear it from anyone else. Someone has been spreading rumors. They are saying our connection is Inappropriate. Her throat closed around his words. That is not true. I would never. I know, he interrupted gently. I know exactly who you are. But this could become serious. The board is already asking questions. Why would anyone do that? She whispered. He hesitated, jaw tight. Jealousy, most likely. Or politics. Some people want control of the campaign. They will use anything to get it. Ava's eyes filled with tears. I can resign if that helps. No, he said firmly. You did nothing wrong. I will handle it. But as the day went on, the whispers grew louder. Someone had leaked a photo from the gala. Ethan looking directly at Ava from the stage, her face glowing under the lights. The caption online read, Kolonix's golden girl, talent or favoritism. By afternoon, Ava could not bear the stares. She hid in the stairwell, hands trembling around her phone. When her mother called, she tried to sound steady. Everything is fine, Mom, just a long day. But her voice cracked on the last word. Later that evening, as the building emptied, she returned to her desk to pack her things. She could not face another morning like this. Her sketchbook lay open, a single page torn halfway loose. The drawing of two hands reaching across a glowing screen stared back at her, her idea now overshadowed by scandal. The elevator chimed softly behind her. Ethan stepped out, his tie loosened, his eyes tired. Ava, he said, do not leave like this. She turned, voice shaking. I cannot stay. Every person here looks at me like I am a mistake you made. You are not a mistake, he said quietly. You are the only thing that has felt real in years. Her eyes glistened with tears. Then why does it hurt so much? He took a step closer, but she shook her head. Please, just let me go before they take everything from both of us. Ethan froze, the weight of her words sinking deep. She picked up her sketchbook, hugged it to her chest, and walked away. As the elevator doors closed between them, Ethan stood in silence, the city lights flickering behind him. For the first time in a long time, he felt powerless. And for Ava, that night marked the moment when truth, success, and heartbreak became one and the same. Rain swept across the city that night, turning the streets into glimmering mirrors of light and water. Ava walked alone beneath her small umbrella, the handle shaking in her trembling hand. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her heart pounding with every echo of thunder. By the time she reached her apartment, her clothes were soaked, and her spirit felt hollow. Inside, the room was silent except for the steady drip of rain against the window. She set her sketchbook on the table, the leather cover damp at the edges. Every corner of the small apartment seemed to hum with the weight of what had happened. Her phone buzzed again and again, messages from coworkers, notifications from online articles, headlines filled with her name. She turned the screen face down. Ava collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. Her dream had turned into a storm of humiliation. She had worked hard, done everything right, and yet the world had chosen to believe a lie. For the first time since her internship began, she doubted everything, her talent, her integrity, her worth. The following morning, sunlight crept through the blinds, pale and cold. Ava dressed quietly, packed her portfolio, and made her way to the community art center she used to volunteer at before joining Kolonix. It was a small brick building, nestled between a laundromat and a bookstore. Inside, the scent of acrylic paint and dust greeted her like an old friend. Miss Thompson? The manager asked, surprised to see her. It has been months. Are you back to help with the kids' workshop? Ava smiled faintly. Not today. I just needed a place to think. She sat at an old wooden table near the back, opening her sketchbook. Page after page carried the story of her growth, the messy beginnings, the hopeful concepts, the campaign that had once made her proud. Her fingers brushed over the drawing of the two hands reaching across the glowing screen. Tears blurred her vision. Maybe kindness is not enough in a world like this, she whispered. But even as she said it, a quiet voice in her heart protested. She remembered Ethan's words. You are the only thing that has felt real in years. Real. That was what mattered. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan stood before the board of directors, facing a barrage of questions and accusations. His usual calm had hardened into quiet resolve. When the chairman demanded to know if the rumors were true, Ethan spoke clearly. No, they are false. Miss Thompson earned her position through skill and honesty. If you need someone to blame, blame me for not protecting her better. The room fell silent. His statement was bold, and it placed his reputation on the line. But for the first time in his career, he did not care. That evening, Ethan visited the community art center. He found Ava sitting by the window, her sketchbook open, a cup of coffee cooling beside her. She looked up, startled. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly. "I told the board the truth," he said, "and I told them if they wanted to punish someone, they could start with me." Her eyes widened. "You did that? I could not let them turn your kindness into something ugly." He took a slow breath. "You reminded me of why I built this company. It was never meant to crush people like you. It was meant to lift them." Ava's throat tightened. "You should not have risked everything for me." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I needed to remember what matters." For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain had stopped, and the faint glow of sunset filled the room. Ava closed her sketchbook and looked at him with quiet strength. "I do not know what happens next," she said, "but I want to build something that cannot be destroyed by lies." Ethan nodded. "Then we will start there." In that still moment, surrounded by paint-splattered walls and fading light, something fragile, yet powerful, began to rebuild itself hope. 2 weeks later, the city buzzed with headlines again, but this time, the tone had changed. Kolenix Foundation announced a new program called the Open Hands Initiative, dedicated to funding young designers from underprivileged backgrounds. The campaign's focus was clear. Talent deserves opportunity, not judgment. At the press conference, Ethan stood before the media, steady and composed. "This initiative," he said, "was inspired by one intern who reminded us that creativity is not born from privilege, it is born from courage." He did not mention Ava's name, but everyone knew who he meant. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled notes, and somewhere at the back of the hall, Ava watched quietly. She had refused to return to Kolenix as an employee, yet she had agreed to help design the foundation's visual identity. Her sketches, the same ones that had once been ridiculed, now covered the stage backdrop in soft hues of blue and white. When the event ended, Ethan found her near the exit. "You did not stay to take credit," he said. Ava smiled faintly. "I did not draw this for applause. I drew it so someone else could believe they mattered." Ethan's gaze softened. "You still believe in that? Even after everything?" She nodded. "Especially after everything." He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a printed letter bearing the foundation's seal. Creative Director, the Open Hands Initiative, Ava Thompson. Her breath caught. "You are offering me a position?" "I am asking you to lead it," Ethan said simply. "To build what I could not." Tears filled her eyes as she looked at him. "You kept your promise," she whispered. He smiled. "You kept your faith." Outside, the evening sun spilled across the street, lighting their faces in gold. The noise of the city faded behind them, replaced by something quiet and certain: two people choosing to rebuild, not through status or power, but through action and kindness. For the first time in months, Ava felt peace, not the peace of perfection, but the peace of knowing she had done what was right. 1 year later, the Foundation's first exhibition opened inside the Kolenix atrium. The walls were filled with artwork, product designs, and prototypes created by young talents from across the country: students, single parents, and dreamers who had once believed no one would notice them. At the center stood a glass case holding a single object: Ava's old sketchbook, open to the page that started it all. Beneath it, engraved in silver, were the words, "Talent has no status, only courage." Guests moved through the gallery, smiling, taking photos, shaking hands. Ethan stood beside Ava, watching as her students explained their ideas with pride. "You did this," he said quietly. Ava shook her head. "We did this. You gave me a chance to draw something real." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small gift box. Inside was a silver necklace with a tiny charm shaped like a pencil. "For the woman who taught me that mistakes can lead to miracles." Ava laughed softly, her eyes glistening. "You remembered." "How could I forget?" Ethan said, taking her hand. "You walked into the wrong room, and somehow you found my heart." She smiled, warmth filling her chest. "Then maybe it was the right room after all." As the lights dimmed and the guests applauded, Ava looked around the glowing hall, her heart full. The journey that had begun with fear and misunderstanding ended with truth and connection. Because sometimes, the best mistakes are the ones that lead us home.